A large space probe is nearing the Sun. The terrifying heat of the star begins to melt the shell of the spacecraft. Another moment, and the probe bursts into flames. In no time, it disintegrates in a powerful explosion. Ah, what a sad ending. If it were true, it was not a probe. It was a comet known as 3I Atlas. And despite everything people say, it's still intact and thriving. The thing is, there is a rumor online saying that comet 3I Atlas exploded when it got closest to the Sun. But astronomers say this is not true. There was no explosion, and the comet's nucleus still looks whole and undamaged, which is kind of surprising, since comets that pass very close to the Sun usually go through some serious changes. You see, comets are made of a mix of ice, dust, and rocky material, which is why they're often called dirty snowballs. So, when they come close to the Sun, the intense heat from our star makes their ice turn into gas. This new gas can burst out in huge jets, form a cloud around the comet called a coma, and/or be pushed away into a long tail. Sunlight makes all of these parts shine more brightly, and even people with small or simple telescopes can study the comet if the viewing conditions are good. But aside from being a breathtaking view, such a close approach can break off pieces of a comet or even tear its whole nucleus apart. Now, it's true that some comets survive this process, but many, especially small ones, or comets entering the inner solar system for the first time, break into pieces or disappear completely. Well, 3I Atlas acted differently. So there. It reached its closest point to the Sun on October 29, 2025. This point is called the perihelion. At that moment, the comet was about 130 million miles from the Sun. That's about 1.5 times the distance between the Sun and our planet. The comet was also on the opposite side of the Sun from Earth, so the star was blocking it from our view and we couldn't see the comet. Anyway, even though 3I Atlas could hypothetically break apart or release lots of fragments, it didn't. The nucleus stayed intact, and this made the comet's behavior even more unusual and interesting to scientists. They looked closely at the new photos and said everything looked normal. Now, interestingly, the day before, some people thought the comet had broken into pieces after it came out from behind the far side of the Sun. This idea became popular after a blog post said the comet had lost a lot of mass. So, to make this claim, the blog used photos taken on November 9th by 2 small telescopes in Spain. The pictures show jets of gas coming out of the comet. The scientists used this to estimate how much material was coming off the comet, claiming that it should have broken into at least 16 pieces. However, many scientists have questioned this statement. Most researchers say there's no proof that the comet exploded. One scientist who studies the comet says that all the images he had seen showed a completely normal, healthy comet. There's no sign that the main body of the comet has broken apart. Still, now that the comet is coming back into view, astronomers are watching it very carefully. They want to learn more about the comet's materials and structure. Right now, if you look at it from Earth, the comet seems to be slowly moving higher in the eastern sky. If the weather is good, people in many parts of the northern hemisphere can see it with a small telescope, like this one with a 6-inch lens. And many do pay attention to the comet. Since it was discovered in July, it has become the center of many curious ideas. Some people are sure that the comet, which comes from outside our solar system and might be more than 7 billion years old, could be a probe sent by a different civilization. Now, most astronomers strongly disagree, of course. They believe the comet is completely natural and comes from another star system somewhere in the Milky Way. And this is actually exciting. Comet 3I Atlas is only the 3rd interstellar comet ever seen, and it is the largest one of its kind. Before, it was Comet 2I Borisov that passed through in 2019, and Oumuamua, a weird elongated object that appeared in 2017. But 3I Atlas, with its up to 3.5-mile nucleus, dwarfs Oumuamua, which was just a quarter-mile long, and Borisov, which is about 0.3 of a mile across. Plus, 3I Atlas may be the oldest comet humans have ever observed. Oumuamua is much younger, around 1 billion years old, It came from the galaxy's thin disk, where new stars are still being born. It was the first known object from another star system to pass through our solar system, basically our first interstellar guest. It was super stretched out, about 10 times longer than it was wide, unlike anything else we've spotted in space. As for 2I Borisov, it sits in between, at roughly 1.7 billion years old. It also came from the thin disk. It was the first confirmed comet to come from another star system, and it gave scientists a super rare peek at what materials beyond our solar system were made of. Unlike the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, which looked more like an asteroid, Borisov behaved like a classic comet. It had a bright coma, a temporary fuzzy atmosphere of gas and dust forming around the comet's nucleus as it approaches the Sun. Plus, it also had a long tail of dust and gas. Now, 2I Borisov is speeding away from the Sun and will never return. But it allowed scientists to take a glimpse into the chemistry and history of distant worlds. Now, let's get back to Comet 3I Atlas. It will pass closest to Earth on December 19th. Until then, scientists will make many more observations. People will also make many new claims about the comet, that's for sure. But it's best to be cautious and not believe everything immediately. By the way, even though you can't see this famous comet with your own eyes or with a regular telescope, hey, that's good news. A powerful telescope in Italy is streaming it live for free. Whoa! So anyone can actually watch this mysterious object as it passes by. Scientists think this comet weighs about 33 billion tons. That's a big number. How about we make a few comparisons? The Eiffel Tower weighs around 10,000 tons. So, 33 billion tons is the same as 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. And if you decide to compare the space visitor to buildings, well, 33 billion tons is about the same as the weight of several huge city areas made entirely of steel and concrete. Now, 3I Atlas was first noticed in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, which, if you're paying attention, is where they got the nickname Atlas. Shortly after, NASA confirmed that the object wasn't from our solar system at all. Now, besides being huge, 3I Atlas is unusual in several other ways. As it moves through the solar system, it's releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide and dust. So this suggests that 3I Atlas is 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which means 1,000 to 100,000 times more massive than the two other known interstellar visitors. Such an enormous difference is a real scientific mystery. It's also traveling incredibly fast, about 150,000 miles per hour, which is almost 200 times the speed of sound. Hey, that will get you a speeding ticket. And unlike objects in our solar system, which follow curved paths because of gravity, 3I Atlas is moving on a nearly straight line. That alone makes it stand out. Now that the comet has moved past the Sun, telescopes on Earth can see it again. Comet 3I Atlas is important to us because it's only the third interstellar visitor we've ever seen, and it may be the biggest and oldest one yet. And it didn't break apart near the Sun like some other comets. By studying it, scientists can learn what materials exist in other star systems and better understand how comets, and even planets, form in our galaxy. A mysterious space visitor has recently passed its closest approach to Earth, flying by at a distance of 64 million miles. It might be something totally natural and born on the outskirts of the solar system, or some unknown civilization could be examining us from above right at this moment. This new object looks a lot like another strange wanderer called 3I Atlas, and you'll understand why we say strange pretty soon. So, could both of them come from the same place outside our solar system? What we do know is that this new object is relatively close to us, in space terms of course, and scientists are now studying it closely. They first spotted it inside our solar system, and people are paying attention because it showed up not long after 3I Atlas passed near our Sun. On November 2, 2025, astronomer Gennady Borisov, the same person who discovered interstellar comet 2I Borisov in 2019, found this new object. It's now got its official name and is listed in NASA's and the Minor Planet Center's databases. C-2025V1 has some unusual features. Its orbit is tilted 113 degrees, which means it's moving almost up and over the regular path that planets take. Even more bizarre, its orbital plane is almost at a right angle to the path of 3I Atlas. Plus, it doesn't have a clear comet tail, which is odd. Right now, its orbit has an eccentricity of 1.0095. And let me break it down in human language. If that number was well above 1, it would mean the object definitely came from outside the solar system. But because it's only just a bit above 1, the most likely explanation is that C-2025V1 came from the Oort cloud. That's a giant faraway shell of icy objects that surrounds the solar system. Now scientists check this by basically rewinding the object's path, sending it all the way back to about 1000 AU. That's 1,000 times farther than the Earth is from the Sun. At that huge distance, the planets can't mess with its motion anymore. When they redo the orbit from that point, its eccentricity, the number that tells you if it's from outside the solar system, usually drops below 1, which means it's still part of our solar system. But at the same time, even a tiny push from Jupiter while passing by could make even a normal Oort cloud comet look like it has an eccentricity slightly above 1. And on top of that, small blasts of gas coming off the comet's surface can also change the numbers a little. So, to put it simply, it probably isn't interstellar. It just looks that way because of small pushes and gas bursts. C-2025V1 is still exciting, even if it comes from the Oort cloud, because studying it gives us a chance to analyze the material from that distant region and learn how our solar system formed and evolved. Now let's get back to the mystery of 3I Atlas. Before anything else, let's explain what 3I Atlas actually is. It's most likely a comet, basically a huge, dirty snowball flying through space. You can't see it with your own eyes or with a regular telescope. But there's good news. A powerful telescope in Italy is streaming it live for free. So anyone can actually watch this mysterious object as it passes by. Scientists think this comet weighs about 33 billion tons. That number is hard to imagine, so here are a few comparisons. The Eiffel Tower weighs around 10,000 tons. So 33 billion tons is the same as a whopping 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. And if you decide to compare the space visitor to buildings, 33 billion tons is about the same as the weight of several huge city areas made entirely of steel and concrete. But even all that size isn't the wildest part. Some experts think this object might be a piece of unknown technology from outside our galaxy. And they're not saying this just for fun. There are real reasons behind the theory. 3I Atlas was first noticed in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS. Shortly after, NASA confirmed that the object wasn't from our solar system at all. It's an interstellar object, only the third ever discovered. The first one was Oumuamua in 2017, which looked long and flat and didn't behave like a normal rock. The second was Comet BI Borisov in 2019. Now we have 3I Atlas, and it is enormous compared with the other two. Its nucleus is up to 3.5 miles wide, while Oumuamua was only about a quarter mile long, and Borisov was around a half mile across. Besides being huge, 3I Atlas is unusual in several other ways. As it moves through the solar system, it's releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide and gas. This suggests that 3I Atlas is 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which means 1,000 to 100,000 times more massive than the other two known interstellar visitors. Such an enormous difference is a real scientific mystery. It's also traveling incredibly fast, about 150,000 miles per hour, which is almost 200 times the speed of sound. And unlike objects in our solar system, which followed curved paths because of gravity, 3i Atlas is moving on a nearly straight line. That alone makes it stand out. These odd behaviors have led some researchers to consider a pretty unexpected idea. 3i Atlas might be a probe sent by another civilization, possibly to study Earth. According to this theory, the object could be a sign of some kind of intelligence from beyond our solar system. Why do they think this? Well, because the object's movement doesn't match what you'd expect from something controlled only by gravity. It also passes close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, and these are the planets that might be especially interesting for an outside civilization to observe. Another very unusual feature of 3i Atlas's path is that its orbit is tilted only a little compared to the plane of the solar system, about 5 degrees, and it moves in the opposite direction to most planets. This feature might allow the object, or its creators, to take extremely precise measurements of planets, things like their orbits and sizes, to plan a perfect flight route through the solar system. And if 3i Atlas suddenly changes direction at some point, that could mean it's using a built-in engine instead of simply drifting through space. Now, new photos have also shown that 3i Atlas has at least 7 jets blasting material into space, some shooting in totally opposite directions. Now, if this thing is just a normal comet, it would have had to lose a huge amount of its original mass when it passed near the Sun, way more than just 10 to 20%. Only some of that material would actually push the object in one direction, so the total amount blown off would need to be massive. If that's what happened, then there should be now a giant cloud of gas and dust around 3i Atlas. And if that cloud exists, it'll be pretty easy to figure out what the comet is made of. The James Webb Space Telescope will check this when 3i Atlas gets closest to Earth on December 19, 2025. But if 3i Atlas is not a normal comet and is actually some kind of technology, it wouldn't need to lose that much material. Engines built by an advanced civilization could give it a boost while using way less gas because they shoot it out way faster. Faster exhaust gives more push with less fuel, so a technological object wouldn't need to blast away big chunks of itself the way a natural comet would. So, to sum it up, there's still a big mystery around 3i Atlas. Could it really be a technological mothership that released small probes into the inner solar system? But C2025 V1 doesn't fit that idea, unless one of the objects used some kind of engine. The closest their orbits ever come is about 46 million miles, and the two objects themselves were never closer to each other than about 140 million miles. The tiny non-gravitational push detected in 3i Atlas is nowhere near strong enough to close this gap. So, C2025 V1 is almost certainly not one of the mini probes people imagine 3i Atlas might have released.
Comet 3i Atlas crashes into Earth, and a wave of widespread destruction starts shaking our planet. Ginormous tsunamis are swallowing coastlines, devastating earthquakes are cracking the ground. Hot debris is igniting massive firestorms. Thick clouds of dust are blocking the sun. Now, that's what could happen if 3i Atlas, a massive comet traveling through the solar system, collided with our planet. But can this disaster actually occur? When will 3i Atlas be the closest to Earth? Let's figure this out. First of all, this comet turned out to be way larger than we previously thought. Its weight is likely a whopping 33 billion tons. Let's throw in a few comparisons to put it into perspective. The Eiffel Tower weighs about 10,000 tons. So, 33 billion tons is roughly the weight of 3.3 million Eiffel Towers. Impressive! Next, all the cars on Earth, and we're talking about 1.5 billion vehicles, each weighing about 1.5 tons, weigh approximately 2.25 billion tons. This means that the comet's mass is 15 times greater than the combined weight of literally all the cars on the planet. And finally, compared to buildings on Earth, 33 billion tons is equal to several large metropolitan areas made entirely of steel and concrete. But the whole idea of how big this comet is fades in comparison with an even crazier fact about it. It could be unknown technology from a different galaxy, and some experts are somewhat sure about that. But why? 3I Atlas was first spotted in July by NASA's Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. A bit later, the US Space Agency confirmed that the object was an interstellar object, only the third we have found so far. Before, it was Comet 2I Borisov that passed through in 2019, and Oumuamua, a weird elongated object that appeared in 2017. But the newest comet, with its up to 3.5-mile nucleus, dwarfs Oumuamua, which is just a quarter-mile long, and Borisov, which is about 0.6 miles across. By the way, some believe that the comet could be even bigger, up to almost 7 miles, but scientists haven't found any proof of that yet. Besides its size, 3I Atlas is different in other ways too, which makes some scientists question its origins. The object is shedding huge amounts of carbon dioxide and dust while zooming towards the Sun. It's most likely the proof that 3I Atlas is more massive than the other two interstellar objects by 3 to 5 orders of magnitude, which is basically a serious anomaly. The comet is also traveling toward the Sun incredibly fast. We're talking about around 130,000 miles per hour, which is almost 170 times the speed of sound. Another weird thing is that this interstellar object is following a straight trajectory, unlike anything else in the solar system. Most space bodies move along curved orbits due to the force of gravity. That made some researchers believe that 3I Atlas might be a probe sent by another civilization to explore Earth, possibly with not-so-friendly intentions. Their theory is that the object could be a technological artifact, a sign of cosmic intelligence. You see, the comet moves in a pretty weird way that doesn't totally line up with just gravity. Its trajectory also takes it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. And researchers think that these planets might be especially interesting for another civilization to pass by. Another bizarre fact, the space traveler also spins backward compared to most stuff in our solar system. This might be necessary to make it easier for 3I Atlas to get near Earth without much resistance. Some scientists think the comet's odd spin and flight path could help whoever or whatever made it take super precise measurements of the planets, things like their orbits and sizes, to plan a perfect route through the solar system. If 3I Atlas suddenly changes direction in a big way, that might mean it's using some kind of built-in engine instead of just drifting through space. There's also another theory that suggests it could be a piece of unknown tech that's still active. There's no need to worry though, at least at the moment. The comet isn't coming anywhere near us. NASA says it'll stay around 150 million miles from Earth when heading toward the Sun. So the question is, where do such space visitors come from? Astronomers have found that the 3 interstellar objects we discovered came from totally different parts of the galaxy. And each of them has its own age and background. 3I Atlas turned out to be the oldest, about 4.6 billion years old, and it came from the Milky Way's thick disk. That's a region filled with older stars that have fewer heavy elements. 1I Oumuamua is much younger, around 1 billion years old. It came from the galaxy's thin disk, where new stars are still being born. Oumuamua, Hawaiian for a messenger from afar arriving first, was the first known object from another star system to pass through our solar system. Basically, the first interstellar guest. It was super stretched out, about 10 times longer than it was wide, unlike anything else we've spotted in space. It also sped up in a way that couldn't be explained by gravity alone. Changes in brightness showed it was tumbling end over end instead of spinning smoothly. At first, scientists were confused because the space body didn't have a tail or cloud of gas like a normal comet, even though it was accelerating. That led to a lot of debate about what it was made of and where it came from. Just like with 3I Atlas, some people wondered if it could be technology created by a space civilization. But most scientists now think Oumuamua was a totally natural object, just a really weird one. The best guess is that it was a comet releasing invisible hydrogen gas, which caused it to speed up slightly. Sadly, by the time astronomers found it, it was already heading out of the solar system, so there wasn't much time to study it. As for 2I Borisov, it sits in between at roughly 1.7 billion years old. It also came from the thin disk. It was the first confirmed comet to come from another star system, and it gave scientists a super rare peek at what materials beyond our solar system were made of. The comet was discovered in 2019 by Gennady Borisov, an amateur astronomer who actually built his own telescope to search for faint space objects. Unlike the first interstellar visitor, Oumuamua, which looked more like an asteroid, Borisov behaved like a classic comet. It had a bright coma. That's a temporary fuzzy atmosphere of gas and dust forming around the comet's nucleus as it approaches the sun. Plus, it boasted a long tail of dust and gas. Studying 2I Borisov helped researchers learn more about how other planetary systems form. Observations showed that its dust grains were compact and that the amount of gases like carbon dioxide changed a lot as it approached the sun. It could mean that the comet formed under very different conditions than anything else in our solar system. Now, 2I Borisov is speeding away from the sun and will never return. But it allowed scientists to take a unique glimpse into the chemistry and history of distant worlds. Interestingly, the differences between these three space objects suggest that interstellar visitors have been getting kicked out of planetary systems all across the galaxy for billions of years, so it's not something new. To figure out if 3I Atlas might be some kind of probe from another planet, scientists are checking for any signs of technology, like strange radio signals, electric activity, and weird movement patterns. If the comet suddenly changes course or drops smaller objects nearby, it might be our cue. But even though 3I Atlas is moving in a pretty wild and energetic way, it's most likely just a natural interstellar object passing through. Researchers say they'll need a lot more proof before anyone can seriously say the space wanderer was sent by someone from another planet. What do you think about this newly discovered space traveler? Share your opinion in the comments. A mysterious visitor has just entered our solar system and is zooming through it at a crazy fast speed of 152,000 miles per hour. It's faster than anything we usually see, and it's not slowing down. How fast will it reach Earth? Will the world end when it does? Let's see. This space traveler first popped up in telescopes that watch the night sky all the time, called Atlas. This system has eyes in Hawaii, Chile, and South Africa. They spotted the bizarre object on July 1st, and it's moving straight toward the sun at that crazy rate. What's even weirder, it's flying in a straight line, not how things usually move around here. At first, scientists thought, whoa, this thing isn't from around here, meaning it was an interstellar object, a visitor from far outside our solar system just passing through with enough speed to not get stuck by the sun's pull. Then, NASA stepped in and gave this object a name, 3I Atlas. Turns out, it's most likely a comet, a big, dirty snowball flying through space. You won't see it with the unaided eye or a normal telescope, but lucky for us, there's a free live stream from a powerful telescope in Italy where you can watch this mysterious traveler zoom by. We've only seen two other interstellar visitors before, one called Borisov in 2019 and the other back in 2017. You might have heard of Oumuamua before. Some thought Oumuamua might be a spaceship from another civilization, but nope, just a strange rock. Scientists think there are lots more of these cosmic visitors out there, just sneaking through without us noticing. And this newly discovered one proves it. But how exactly did it get spotted? It happened on July 1st, 2025, way out in Chile. At the time they saw it, it was about 4.5 times farther from the Sun than Earth is, and it was moving fast. Unlike the planet's unusual space stuff that orbit the Sun in nice, neat loops, this comet is on a hyperbolic path, meaning it's just passing through, not sticking around. Its orbit is super stretched out. This comet is tricky to size up because it's wrapped in a cloud of shiny dust, making it hard to tell how big the solid core really is. Scientists guess it's somewhere between 0.5 and 15 miles wide. The comet is going to swing closest to the Sun, this point is called perihelion, on October 29, 2025, at just over 1.3 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. One of the coolest things about this comet is that it likely came from the thick galactic disk, an old part of our galaxy filled with ancient stars. That means this traveler could be over 7 billion years old.
He says I'm a grumpy old man.
It's possibly packed with water ice from ancient times. In other words, it's a speedy, mysterious comet from far beyond that might hold secrets about the early universe hidden in its ice. Anyway, when scientists first noticed this comet, everyone was a bit puzzled. Was it just another asteroid or something more unusual? The path it was on looked so wild that astronomers actually thought it might come close to Earth. So it got added to a special watch list. But as more specialists checked it out, it became clear this was no ordinary space rock. This visitor was on a hyperspeed path that wasn't just around the Sun. It was coming from outside our solar system. Later, it turned out that even before the July 1st discovery, this comet had already been spotted in earlier photos from the end of May and June. But no one knew what it was back then because it was hiding in the dense, star-filled area near the center of our galaxy. So it was like trying to spot a firefly in a fireworks show. At first, some astronomers thought it might just be an asteroid because it didn't seem to have that usual fuzzy glow or tail that comets have. But by July 2nd, powerful telescopes in Chile, Arizona, and Hawaii caught a faint tail and a little cloud of dust around it, the classic signs of a comet. And once they confirmed this, the comet got its official name. Lots of telescopes jumped in to get a better look. One spotted a tail stretching 15,500 miles long. That's longer than the distance from New York to Los Angeles. Others noticed that the dust around the comet had a reddish tint, just like the dust from the last interstellar comet. Scientists even tried to figure out if the comet was spinning, but couldn't tell because the dust cloud was hiding its core. The Hubble Space Telescope is going to take a look later in July, and scientists worldwide will get access to its data, so everyone can learn as much as possible about this cosmic visitor. So, the comet is going to get its closest to the Sun around October 30th, coming in to about 1.5 times the Earth-Sun distance. Right before that, it's going to swing relatively close to Mars, about 0.4 times that Earth-Sun distance away. So, Mars will get a close-up look. But don't worry, when it comes to Earth, the comet isn't coming anywhere near enough to cause any trouble. The thing is, when 3I Atlas zooms closest to the Sun, Earth will be on the other side of it. That means the comet won't get anywhere near us. Its closest pass to Earth will happen later in December, when it's already heading back out of the solar system. NASA says it won't come closer than about 1.6 times the distance between Earth and the Sun, so no worries there. Woo-hoo! Scientists are super interested in where 3I Atlas actually came from. One recent study says it probably hails from a part of our galaxy called the thick disk. That's where most of the stars in the Milky Way dwell. But they still don't know exactly which star sent the comet our way. One of the researchers says it could have come from tons of different stars, not just the ones nearby. That's because this comet is likely to be super old. It might have been drifting through space for billions of years before finally zooming past us. Scientists think it came inside Neptune's orbit back in 2023, and it'll pass by Neptune again as it heads back out in 2028. Depending on where you say the solar system ends, it could take decades for this visitor to fully leave our neighborhood. Now, could 3I Atlas be a spaceship sent by another civilization? The answer is almost definitely not. Back in 2017, when the first interstellar visitor Oumuamua showed up, some folks thought it would be a disguised space probe. That idea came from weird things about how it moved. They didn't quite add up. But 3I Atlas is acting like a totally normal comet. No strange moves or surprises so far. Still, some scientists are curious and want to check if 3I Atlas shows anything unusual, like tiny boosts that aren't caused by gravity. You might be wondering if we could actually visit this comet. Well, we've sent spacecraft to some space rocks before, like NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission, which landed on an asteroid called Bennu in 2020, grabbed some samples, and brought them back to Earth. That was a big deal. People have thought about doing the same thing with other interstellar visitors, but for now, visiting 3I Atlas just isn't happening. It's a wild comet zooming through, and we don't have any missions ready or built to catch up to it. So right now, astronomers are in a bit of a race to learn as much as they can about this rare visitor before it disappears again. They've got until the end of September to study it before the sun's glare hides it from view. But then, in December, when it pops back out, they'll get another chance. Big telescopes like the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, the most powerful optical telescope out there, are ready to snap some pictures. There's even talk about using the James Webb Space Telescope, and maybe even NASA's rovers on Mars to catch a glimpse as it speeds towards the sun. Look at this comet! Recently, it's erupted 4 times in less than 48 hours and has become nearly 300 times brighter than normal. This is the most powerful set of eruptions the comet has had in over 3 years. Should we worry here on Earth? Well, I wouldn't say scientists are worried. They're super excited. First, let me give you a little background. 29P is what astronomers call a centaur comet. Those are icy objects that orbit the Sun in the space between Jupiter and Neptune. What's interesting about centaurs is that they're kind of like cosmic hybrids because they're moving from one kind of space body to another. They start their life as far-out objects in a lifeless, freezing cold zone beyond Neptune. But then, over a few million years, they move inward toward the Sun because the planets of the solar system affect them with their gravity. Eventually, they turn into short-period comets. This term means they can pass close to the Sun and then slingshot back out into those icy regions. Centaurs, and their name indeed comes from a hybrid half-horse, half-human creature popular in Greek mythology, are especially interesting because they're basically leftovers from the formation of our solar system, kind of like cosmic fossils. Since they've been hanging out in the frigid outer solar system for so long, they've kept a lot of the volatile materials that were present when the solar system was first forming. This makes them a valuable clue in understanding how our solar system evolved. That's what makes scientists so enthusiastic. Now, about 29P itself. This thing is huge for a comet. It's about 37 miles across, which is almost 3 times the length of Manhattan. Now, worry not, it's too far away to cause us any harm. While it's one of up to 1,000 known centaurs, 29P is also in a rarer group of comets called cryovolcanic comets. Those are a fascinating class of space objects that have unique geological activity. The thing is, cryovolcanic comets not only contain a unique mix of ice, dust, and rock, but also feature cryovolcanoes, aka cold volcanoes. They erupt with volatile materials like water, ammonia, or methane instead of molten rock. As for regular comets, when they approach the Sun, the heat from the star evaporates their gases, leading to the emissions of dust and tiny particles, electrons, and ions. These materials create those magnificent trails. These eruptions are incredibly spectacular and make the comet appear a lot brighter since the cloud of cryomagma reflects the sun's light. The cloud that forms around the comet is called the coma, and it can grow so large and bright that it makes the comet look like a fuzzy ball of light. If you've ever observed a comet, the coma is the halo you see around it. Such eruptions are pretty unpredictable. While most cryovolcanic comets follow elliptical orbits that take them far out into the solar system, 29P is on a more circular orbit, staying around the same distance from the Sun as Jupiter. You'd think that this would mean its eruptions would be more regular, but that's not the case at all. In fact, 29P erupts in a completely random and unpredictable way, and scientists are still trying to figure out why. The latest outbursts started on November 2, 2024, when 29P erupted for the first time in almost 2 years. This was followed by 3 more large eruptions in less than 48 hours, which really got the attention of astronomers at the British Astronomical Association. They'd been tracking 29P for a while, and they reported that the eruptions sent out a cloud of debris reflecting about 289 times more light than the comet's nucleus, which is a huge increase in brightness. Astronomers are expecting that the coma, which is growing after each eruption, could take on an unusual shape. The multiple outbursts might cause the coma to expand in a weird, irregular way. This is especially interesting because 29P hasn't had a major eruption like this since November 2022. Then it threw out over 1 million tons of debris. The last time it had a massive outburst was in September 2021, when the comet had multiple eruptions in quick succession. In addition to the confusion about its eruptions, 29P is pretty different from most other comets. Most comets have elliptical orbits that take them far out into the solar system. They spend decades, centuries, or even thousands of years far from the sun, only to erupt when they get close. But 29P doesn't do that. No, it orbits the sun once every 15 years and stays at about the same distance as Jupiter. This strange behavior makes astronomers even more eager to figure out what's going on with it. Another cool thing about 29P is that it doesn't ever get close enough to the sun to grow a tail like other famous comets, such as the once-in-a-century comet, Tsuchinshan Atlas, which has recently made headlines. It passed the closest to Earth in 80,000 years. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has been keeping an eye on 29P, helping solve some of the mysteries about the comet. And it has recently made another groundbreaking discovery. It has detected jets of CO2, good old carbon dioxide, coming from the comet. This was the first ever detection of CO2 jets on this particular comet. Webb has also discovered a jet of carbon monoxide coming from the comet. It can tell us a lot about the composition of the comet and its outbursts. What's especially interesting is that the jets seem to come from different parts of 29P's nucleus. Even though Webb can't actually figure out the nucleus itself because it's too small to see in detail, the jets coming from different locations on the comet's surface suggest that the nucleus may be made up of multiple objects. These objects might have different compositions, and it's possible that the nucleus is more of a composite body made up of smaller chunks that came together over time. Strangely, astronomers haven't detected any water vapor in the comet's atmosphere. That's unusual because the atmospheres of most comets often contain water. Our comet might lack water vapor due to the extremely cold temperatures on its surface. It could prevent water from evaporating or vaporizing. 29P isn't the only thing that Webb is studying. The telescope has also been making some big discoveries about galaxies far, far away. For example, Webb has recently spotted a galaxy with a pretty complicated name which appeared about 1 billion years after the Big Bang. What's super weird about this galaxy is that the gas in it is shining brighter than the stars, which is really rare. This could be a missing link phase in the evolution of galaxies, something that could help astronomers understand how galaxies transition from the very first stars, called population 3 stars, to the types of galaxies we see today. The stars in this galaxy are much hotter than we see in modern galaxies in local universe, around 144,000 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to the typical 72,000 to 90,000 degree Fahrenheit of stars today. This could mean that the galaxy is in the middle of a super brief but intense phase of star formation, where huge, hot stars are popping up in a dense gas cloud. And this gas cloud is glowing so brightly because it's being hit with tons of light from these stars. The research team behind this discovery says that although the galaxy doesn't have population 3 stars, because the data shows it has too much chemical complexity, it still could be a guide for understanding how galaxies evolved, from the first stars to the galaxies we're familiar with today. There are still so many questions about this galaxy. Is it a rare phase, or is it something that happens often in the early stages of galaxy formation? Astronomers are hoping to study more galaxies like this one to figure it out.
Some people, like the Andaman Islanders, that's a community living in the Gulf of Bengal, see them as burning torches thrown into the air by forest spirits. Others, like some Australian Aborigines, think they're flaming sticks ridden by shamans. If you ask an astronomer, though, they'll tell you that a comet is a large object made of dust and ice that orbits the sun. Arguably one of the most famous space objects of this kind is Halley's Comet. It has left a great impact on our history and understanding of these mysterious falling stars. When this comet passed Earth in August of 1835, for example, it was blamed for the New York City fire that kept going for several nights. At the same time, the Seminole Indians in Florida saw the comet's long tail and believed it marked the day they would lose their independence. This comet came back in 1910, and people yet again saw it as a sign of bad luck. In Chicago, people bent over backward to secure their windows to protect themselves from the comet's dangerous tail. Others bought all sorts of gadgets, like umbrellas or masks protecting from comets. But what's so intriguing about this space body? How come it just pops up around Earth every once in a while? And, most importantly, is it really dangerous? Halley's is what astronomers call a periodic comet. It visits us every 75 years or so. On rare occasions, some lucky people get to see it twice in their lifetime. It last passed Earth in 1986, and it is expected to come back in 2061. Despite this scheduled return, the comet's orbit can't be predicted with precision. That's partly because of the chemical processes happening inside the comet. Halley's orbit may also change due to random interactions with other planets and space objects in our solar system. Its official title is 1P/Halley, and it's named after English astronomer Edmund Halley. He was the one who studied the reports of a comet nearing Earth in 1531, 1607, and 1682. Based on his calculations, he concluded that these three occurrences had been, in fact, the same comet, returning over and over again. He also predicted its return in 1758. Halley's discovery also pointed out that some comets, like this one, orbited the Sun, but their journey was not circular. If you look at it in 2D, Halley's orbit looks like an elliptical wire dangling from the Sun. Sadly, Halley didn't live to see the comet's correctly predicted return, but it was named after him. According to the European Space Agency, the first sighting of Halley's Comet dates back to March 30th, 239 BCE. Asian astronomers noted it down in the Sheqi and Wenxian Thungkao chronicles. But another study claims that we might have first noticed it even earlier than that, during the times of the ancient Greeks. Writings from that period reported a huge meteor that landed in northern Greece, leaving the local population perplexed. It soon became one of the ancient world's most popular tourist attractions. But the authors also noticed a comet in the sky at the time the meteor landed. They also reported the fact that the unusual space object had remained in the sky for about 75 days. Shakespeare himself seems to have written about this comet in his play Julius Caesar around the year 1600. In this work, he included a now famous phrase speaking of comets as unusual signs, saying, "The heavens themselves blaze forth." It wasn't the last time famous writers felt a certain connection with this object. Writer Mark Twain even said in 1909, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." Surprisingly, Twain passed away on April 21, 1910, one day after Halley's had emerged from behind the far side of the Sun. We got a better look at the comet when it last passed us in 1986. Several spacecraft were sent toward Halley's to take samples of the comet's composition. This fleet of spaceships, dubbed the Halley Armada, flew nearby, one of them taking several pictures of the comet's core for the first time in history. We also had much better telescopes to look at the comet as it swung by our planet this time. Based on current studies, there's little to no chance that Halley's Comet could actually pose any danger to our planet. Most of the bad things associated with the comet were just fabrications. Even better, comets, in general, may have made life on Earth possible. Specialists believe that early in our planet's history, collisions with comets brought a significant amount of water here, which helped to form our oceans. These space objects may have also gifted us organic material necessary for the formation of life. Don't confuse comets with asteroids, though. Unlike asteroids, which are small rocky space bodies also orbiting the Sun, comets are mostly made up of frozen ammonia, methane, or water. They contain only small amounts of rocky material. Because of their composition, comets are sometimes nicknamed dirty snowballs. Comets are made of 4 parts: a nucleus, a coma, a dust tail, and an ion tail. But their nucleus makes up most of their total mass. There are over 3,000 comets that we know of, but astronomers think there may be up to 1 billion of them in our solar system. A comet that is bright enough to be visible from Earth without the help of a telescope is called a great comet. Approximately 1 great comet can be seen every 10 years or so. People have noticed other comets for millennia. However, scientists have concluded that since comets shed a lot of material each time they orbit close to the Sun, their lifespan may be only thousands of years. If you compare that to the age of the solar system, which is 4.6 billion years, it's a relatively small number. Since these space bodies are still present in the solar system today, there must be a source of comets somewhere out there. Otherwise, all comets would have disappeared a long time ago. Another famous comet is named Hale-Bopp. It came very close to Earth in January 1997. The last time it was seen near our planet before that was during the Bronze Age, back in 2000 BCE. This comet is much larger and more spectacular than Halley's. Its nucleus stretches for up to 24 miles in diameter and can be seen from the surface of our planet with the unaided eye. Comet Borrelly was the second comet to be studied up close by a spacecraft. NASA's Deep Space One approached it in 2001 and gave scientists a detailed report of the comet's black core. This comet is surprisingly lopsided, but the reason for its unusual shape is still up for debate. Halley's Comet appears to have formed in the Oort cloud at the outer edges of the solar system, but Borrelly is said to come from an icy cloud of rocks beyond Neptune, which is called the Kuiper Belt. Comet Hyakutake gave us quite the show when it passed just 9.3 million miles from Earth in March 1996. It looked like an ice blue splash with a faint gas tail. This comet amazed astronomers too, as it produced X-rays 100 times more intense than scientists had predicted. A spaceship called Ulysses passed through Hyakutake's tail in May 1996, reporting that it was at least 350 million miles long. That's double the size of any other known comet's tail. The comet Wild 2 was examined by NASA's Stardust spacecraft back in 2004. The probe managed to fly within 147 miles of the nucleus of Wild 2. giving us some of the best comet pictures to date. It was also the first time we got samples of dust particles from a comet. The precious cargo came back to Earth in January 2006. Its aim was to shed light on the conditions under which Wild 2, and the solar system for that matter, formed those billions of years ago. Wild 2 is about 3 miles in diameter and covered with craters and cliffs.